Philipp Dietachmair. I work for the European Cultural Foundation in Amsterdam, which is one of the very, very long-term partners of Bill University. We started, I believe, in 2004 or 2005 to discuss with Istanbul Bill University and other partners all over Turkey and Europe about cultural policy and cultural management in Turkey, in particular when it comes to working in Anatolian cities, where Bill University was very active at this time. And the European Cultural Foundation is a foundation in Amsterdam which has a lot of contacts and itself is an actor of cultural policy reform, of bottom-up cultural policy reform, which involves people, which involves civil society, which involves cultural actors who do the work on the ground. And we started to develop a framework on how such a new way of thinking about cultural policy could look like in Turkey. And one of our partners in Amsterdam was the Vakfı'ndan Foundation, which is a study center and a library for cultural policy and cultural management topics, which has been around for several decades in Amsterdam, and they were a partner in these efforts to bring new knowledge about cultural policy and cultural management in contact with Turkish practices in Anatolia, and to create an interesting new way of discussing, thinking, talking, writing about cultural policy in Turkey. And I believe it was as of the year 2008, we then very concretely started working on establishing a resource center, a knowledge center, a center of discussion and debate at Bill University, the KPY, which was on one hand a place where new insights on cultural policy in Turkey, but from all over Europe, from all over the region in particular, could be stored so that students would have access to it, experts would have access to it, practitioners would have access to it, and at the same time where new ideas happening and new projects and new initiatives happening in many cities, from Izmir to Kars to Çanakkale to Antakya and many other places, could come together and be processed, and new proposals for how cultural policies in a European collaboration context could look like were developed. And the KPY yearbook, which is now recently has published its 8th edition, was a very important tool to collect these insights. It was always published in Turkish and in English, so that international readers could understand what was going on in Turkey and in the region, and in Turkish, so that students, newcomers to the field, institutions, municipalities, ministries at some point could also start participating in this discourse about how cultural policy could look like in Turkey. And I think a highlight definitely in 2011 was this independent report on cultural policy, the state of affairs in Turkey, which was created with, if I remember correctly, more than 180 contributors from all over Turkey, from many different institutions and places and universities, which I believe still nowadays is a sort of standard that was created when thinking and talking about a contemporary cultural policy framework for Turkey. And now in these difficult times, which are full of challenges in cultural collaboration between Turkey and Europe, in particular the European Union and some countries in the European Union, I think this independent voice and independent voices in general remain a very important source and an important structure and platform to build on for the future. And I think we have to work on keeping these platforms in place, and I think and hope that KPY, with its yearbook and other tools and other initiatives it does, will also stay an important platform and tool for cultural policy thinking and debating in the future.